This is Sid, my Springer Spaniel, and I love him with honestly every ounce of my heart. Like, he is the best dog ever, but there is definitely some things I wish I'd have known before I'd have got him. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 things I wish I knew before getting a Springer Spaniel. Some of these I learnt the hard way, and hopefully you don't have to. If you've got a Springer, you might relate to one or every single one of these. If you're thinking about getting one though, take notes. Let's get into it. First up, the FOMO is real. Springer Spaniels have an intense case of FOMO, which for reference is the fear of missing out. This could look like you leaving the room and they follow, you go to the kitchen and they're there behind you, you sit down and they're on you, you go to the toilet but never by yourself, you get your coat and they just lose their mind. And this happens because they are very people-orientated dogs. They just want to be part of everything. And they were bred to work with the handler, so this does make complete and utter sense. And that's a pro until it becomes codependency. A Springer that has never been taught to cope without you is a Springer that struggles significantly when you aren't there. And FOMO might look like it's cute, but it is a sign that independence hasn't been built from a young age, and it definitely is worth addressing early. Like, don't get me wrong, obviously FOMO is one of those things that you can prevent if you do things correctly, but me, being the very young and naive Nick that I was, didn't realistically know what I was getting myself into. And I did probably set this dog up for failure from the very first day that I brought him home. He was just, a menace to society, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, he just would not chill out. He always wanted to be with me. And because he was a cute little Springer, what did I do? I basically paid into it. I did honestly try and do everything correctly. I bought a crate, I bought a pen, I set it all out, I was referencing some stuff that I found online, but where did this guy end up? Literally night 1? Yeah, in my bed with me. Now, there is nothing wrong with your dog staying in bed with you, but in this case, it definitely made more problems, and it did make a lot of things a hell of a lot worse. When I finally did go about getting him crate trained and I thought that I cracked it, this little guy decided to basically start barking in his crate, and me being me, I thought, oh no, he's in distress, he hates it, he wants to get out of there. What did I go and do? Let him out, which then just communicated to him that barking, crying, losing my crap gets me out of the crate. So every single time that I put him in there, he basically just jumped to that behavior straight away because he knew that that was my threshold. Bark, lose your head, go absolutely berserk, and you'll get out of the crate. Win-win scenario for this little lad. And I can definitely see why people might want to jump towards like separation anxiety and stuff like that. Like, I have worked with genuine separation anxiety on 2 occasions. That's how rare it is, by the way. And yeah, it wasn't anything compared to what I was seeing with him. He was just a bright little dog that learned that me being whingy and whiny and barky got me what I wanted. And he used to scratch up crates, he used to bite his crate, he used to scratch up doors, he used to genuinely cause havoc. But you know, that was partly the reasoning being is I just let him do it and I just paid into it, and he just learned that it worked, so he continued to do it more and more and more. But in reality, he was just a sucky little spaniel that wanted to have in on everything that was going on, whether that be with me or without me. Next up, we have the arousal levels, and they will surprise you. I knew that spaniels were high energy, but I genuinely didn't know how quickly this dog could go from 0 to 100. Now, this might look like someone knocking at the door and this then leading to a full meltdown. You picking up the lead, absolute scenes. Another dog appears on a walk and the brain just goes offline. A bird flies past, gone. Springers are bred to work at a high level of arousal. That drive is hardwired. In a pet home, it has to go somewhere. The problem is most owners end up reinforcing high arousal by simply just engaging with it. Fussing them when they're excited, playing with them when they're already wound up. A classic one for you is the good old-fashioned ball launcher. Many a dog owners fall into the trap of creating a bundle of over-arousal by simply launching a ball for their dog, because your dog runs out and gets it, brings it back, spits it out at you, and they'll be whinging and whining and barking and tapping their feet and getting super excited. What do we think? Oh, they're loving this, they're having a great time. When in reality, all that's happening is we're rewarding a behavior that we are probably going to want to stop in other situations and scenarios. High arousal isn't a personality trait. It is a state of being. And it's a state you can definitely manage only if you understand it. When I first started out with this dog, he would just spill at absolutely everything. So just for terminology purposes, what I mean by spill is when we talk about arousal, a dog is going to get to a certain level of arousal. So think of it like a cup. They're filling up, they're filling up, they're filling up, and then that cup then spills. They have spilled from arousal, which basically means they have met like peak intensity of arousal. They're like just whinging, whining, scatting all over the place, not paying attention, not listening to cues. This guy right here was the king when it came to spilling and losing his crap. A big one for Sid is food, right? Food is honestly his most valuable thing. I think even more than me to walk this earth. Like this dog would dive through a brick wall for a piece of kibble. I am not joking. Like it is bizarre how intense this dog's food drive is. I personally don't actually know what I did in order to create this level of food drive in this dog, but it's bizarre. It's helpful because it means I can do literally absolutely anything with him, but in the early stages, he used to spill. And I mean to the point where you even just step towards where his food is kept in the cupboard, he would start to build, he'd start to whine, he'd start to intensify, he'd start to saliva in his mouth. And then you'd go to actually fulfill the desire of going and putting it into the bowl, and that would be it. He would be just gone. What did young, naive little Nick do? Oh, he's just really happy for his food, amazing, haha. Popped it down, and what did that do? Rewarded him for it. So one of the biggest mistakes I made with him was probably feeding into that arousal. Like I used to reward this dog for absolutely everything when he was in that peak level of intensity, whether that be a ball, whether that be food, whether that be just him expecting to do something, I always used to reward it. So now, whenever I do something with him, he's always at peak level of frustration because he's just so used to smashing himself at it over and over and over again until he gets it right. So my advice to you would be make sure you are not rewarding your dogs when they are in a heightened state of arousal, because that's just going to lead to significant amounts of frustration, and then all we've got is a pressure cooker waiting to explode. Next up, and this is probably something that is most common that I work with majority of my clients, I would say, and that is ball obsession. Your dog is just completely transfixed by a ball. Your dog could bring a ball back 200, 250, 300 times and they'd still be wanting that ball after all those ball throws. Or they will stare at the cupboard where the ball is, just hoping that it's going to appear. They'll drop it at your feet and then nudge your hand and then bark and then stare and repeat that process over and over again. On a walk, they'll be scanning for a ball, any ball, someone else's ball, you know, they don't really care as long as they've got a ball. It might even be a ball that they spotted 3 weeks ago. They just do not care. They just want a ball. And this is a trap because ball obsession looks like enthusiasm, and it is to an extent, but it's also a sign of an obsessive behavior, which when it's not controlled or it cannot be switched off is going to cause you a hell of a lot of problems. And a dog that can't switch off, the ball becomes the only thing that matters, and that isn't fulfillment, that is obsession. I wish I'd have known from early on that a ball is a tool and not a lifestyle. Yes, you can use it, but please manage it. Don't let it become the only thing your dog lives for. And that is unfortunately exactly what I did with this kiddo right here. Kind of ties in a little bit with the last point I just made around arousal. I often find that these two things go hand in hand, and this was literally this guy to an absolute T. Young, naive me thought that, oh, I've got a dog that is absolutely obsessed with a ball. Fantastic, let me use that for absolutely everything that I could possibly do with him. Walking past a dog, whip out a ball, just distracting him. Walking down the street, he sees something blowing in the wind, he darts at it because he thinks it's a ball. Whenever we were out on a walk, I would just continuously keep throwing and throwing and throwing and throwing that ball for him, and he just wasn't doing anything. Like, I would honestly say I could take him out for like a super long walk or something, and I'd continuously keep ball launching over and over and over again. He'd come home, and you know what he'd go and do? He'd go and pick up his ball and expect me to throw it even more. There was a couple of horror scenarios, should we say, where I was out at work and I used to leave Sid at home with my nana because she lived next door. And I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, where's my dog? Where's? And then I'd find blood trails on the walls and the doors, and I'd be like, okay, where's my dog? What the heck is going on? Walk out into the garden. Who do I find? This absolute crackpot, going to and fro over and over and over again, completely covered in blood on either side because he'd split this open. And he was still going. So God knows how long he was going for. He could have been going for absolutely ages. But my nana, bless her, was unbeknownst to her, was just rewarding and reinforcing a behaviour. I worked at my previous job from having him at least 4 years. So I'd say 3 out of those 4 years, that's pretty much what he was doing. So yeah, you can imagine that's a hell of a lot of reinforcement history. What he should have been doing is at home, resting, settling, chilling out, ready for his walk so that I could come home after a stressful day's work and take my dog out. But no, what was he doing instead? Constantly going for this ball over and over and over and over again with literally no off switch. I'm not kidding, he would have just kept going and going and going. And as I said, with his arousal, that just went off the charts, and he was a real tough piece of work. And there are lots of behaviors that I have unfortunately reinforced from using a ball that now definitely kick me in the arse. And you're probably thinking that, you know, oh, well, just stop using it and just allow the dog to forget about it. I actually tested this. I did an experiment where I got out a ball launcher that I genuinely have not touched a ball launcher with this dog for at least probably 4 years or so. And instantly, as soon as I got it out, it was like, boom, straight back into the same habits of getting really pitter-pattery and getting ready to go and run after it, running round me, circling round me, all this crazy stuff. It was as if he'd never forgotten. It was as if it was just like literally yesterday that he did that. And that's the power of reinforcement history, guys. That's how potent you can actually make something if you're not aware of it. And once your dog has rehearsed something and reinforced something for so long, it becomes a pathway in their brain. And if you want your dog to stop doing something for literally ever and ever and ever, you need to stop reinforcing them for doing it. And you need to be making sure that you're holding them accountable to stop them from doing it in the first place. Now, Sid's ball obsession pathway in his noggin right here is still there. It probably always will be there, to be honest with you. But I give him a better alternative, something else that I want him to rehearse that stops him from doing these obsessive behaviors. Next up, fulfilling them is actually a lot more simple than you think. What are you doing? Weirdo. This is something that I wish someone would have told me from day one. People seem to overcomplicate fulfilling a gun dog. They think they need acres of land, expert on hand, and just loads and loads of various different things to do with them. But that couldn't be any further than the truth, to be honest with you. So many people try and do 20 different things each week, and it's almost exhausting hearing about it, if I'm being completely honest. But what actually fulfills a Springer is more simple than you think. Now, if you didn't know, Springers were bred to hunt and flush. So if you can provide them with that outlet, you've won. And no, you don't need access to a game shoe. You could get away with just having a small little square centered around you, and you would absolutely be able to fulfill your dog. They love sniffing, they love searching, so of course they're going to love using their nose. So all you've got to do is tap into that. A 20-minute fulfillment session where we are going to tap into your dog's genetics is going to be way more fulfilling for them than just going for a run for an hour or something like that. You could hide a toy or a dummy in some grass and basically send them to go and find it. You could do some flushing scenarios, which is also going to incorporate a little bit of some steadiness, where you put them into a behavior, throw out some dummies, and then send them to go and find them. You could go out and do some structured walks where they actually need to think rather than just blasting around a field. There are so many ways in which you can simply fulfill a Springer's genetics. If I knew about this back in the day when I was doing 110 different things with him, it would have made my life so much easier. And you're going to save so much more time as well. As an outsider looking in, you probably would look at Sid's life and think, oh, flipping out, that dog is so bored. Like, he literally does nothing with it. But let me tell you, it is quality over quantity. He gets more than enough fulfillment, more than enough stimulation than probably most dogs out there. And because he is reliable and he's consistent, he gets a hell of a lot of it as well. And I very rarely go further than doing probably 2 things with him, and that's either gun dog work or hunting for a rabbit ball. That's literally it, alongside obviously his walks. So Springers are far more easier to fulfill than you think. You just need to be giving them a job. Next up is teaching them to switch off is just as important as teaching them to switch on. Everyone seems to focus on the on switch, their dog doing 110 different things at once. The exercise, the training, the stimulation. Nobody talks about the off switch. And without an off switch, things could look like they come back from a walk and they're still pacing, they can't settle in the evening, they're always looking for something to do. And you're exhausted, they're just not. This matters because a Springer that can't switch off is a Springer that is operating at a permanently high base of arousal. And that's super stressful for the dog and very exhausting for the owner. Settling is a skill. It has to be taught. It does not come naturally. I wish I'd have taught Sid to settle from probably the day that I got him. Not just tiring him out physically though, actually teaching him that being calm is a choice. And that did change everything. Literally just look at him right now. You know, he's chilled out, he's just kicking back, you know, he's not overstimulated, he's not panting, he's not scanning around looking for various different things to enter the equation. He's just nice and chilled out. And this is honestly one of the best things that I've taught him to do, because it means I can go anywhere. I can go absolutely anywhere. I can have him off lead. I can pull up to somewhere, I could go to a pub, I could go to a cafe, I could go absolutely anywhere that you could possibly think of, and this is going to be the outcome that I'm going to get from literally just one word, and that is settle. And also my home environment is just so chill as well. Next up is going self-employed, and that is a slope you definitely do not want to get on. By self-employed, I mean a dog that starts to make their own decisions on walks. They go to investigate something without being released, they decide when to come back, which more often than not is never. They choose their own route, their own pace, their own agenda. You're just the person holding the lead, or at least trying to. Springers are bred to work mostly independently. That independence is a feature in the field. In a pet home without structure though, this is going to become a problem. Every single time you allow them to get away with being self-employed, you're simply just reinforcing the behavior. They're learning that their decisions are valid and you are simply invalid. The moment a Springer realizes that they can make their own decisions, they will, every single time. You need to be the one setting the agenda on walks and in life, not them. And the earlier you establish that, the easier it becomes. This is one of the mistakes that I made with him, and it was very difficult to rein it back, so please don't do it. You think your dog has had access to absolutely everything? Why on God's green earth are they going to want to listen to you when it matters? So simply don't do it. Next up, you don't need to be in the sporting life to give them a good life. I got into gun dogs because I love the sporting side, the hunting, the retrieving, the whole thing. But that isn't the reason why most people get a Springer. And here is what I want you to know. You don't need any of that to give a Springer a brilliant life. Obviously in an ideal world, that is the best thing for them, but honestly, you do not need it. What matters is structured walks and mental stimulation, teaching them to settle, building engagement, and of course, like what we've mentioned before, managing arousal. Don't need to be on a shoot. You don't even really need dummies, and you definitely don't need to be out in the field. Last up, and this is just a little bit of a bonus one, a little bit of a funny one, the shedding. Oh my flipping God, do these dogs molt. Flipping hell. Now, I tried multiple different diets, everything, literally everything, but I have to groom this dog, no word of a lie, probably twice a week. He molts like crazy. You literally just look at him and he starts molting. Like I'm probably, just from sitting here, I'm covered in Sid hair. It's absolutely everywhere. It just literally comes out in abundance. You find it in absolutely everything. Thought I was getting a Spaniel. Wasn't expecting to be living with a Husky, can't lie. I'll find his hair absolutely everywhere, even in my arse crack. So if you're thinking about getting a Springer, just be warned, you might be faced with quite a lot of hair loss. From the both of you as well, by the way. So I recommend you just cover your furniture with a blanket, or just don't get a Springer, one of the two. No, of course, I'm absolutely joking with that one. So there we have it, 8 things I wish I'd have known before owning a Springer Spaniel. Most of them I learned the hard way. If you're about to get one, honestly, hand on heart, brilliant choice, but please just take into consideration everything I've spoke about in this video and go in with your eyes open. Drop a comment on which one of these you relate to the most. I'm betting on it being the ball. Thanks for watching and see you next time.